Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is an interview, and I'm going to ask you questions, and you can ask me questions if you want. Would you like to start with me asking you a question, or would you like to say something to me?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course you can ask me a question.
How was your life?
My life was really good. I have a wonderful family, and now I get to interview people all over the world like you, who are super cool and a lot of... How was your life?
Good. Hard. No.
Why is it hard?
I had a lot of issues, sadly.
What kind of issues?
A brain tumor that I think caused the seizures and hunger issues and stuff.
Tell me about what happened to his appetite after the surgery.
So, at the very beginning, when he first woke up, I noticed he was hungry right from the very beginning, the first few hours. And at the beginning, that is fairly common. They give them kind of steroid to avoid swelling in the brain. So they said the first week that they're on that, they are usually pretty hungry. They're recovering from surgery, they are usually pretty hungry. So they didn't take it too seriously at the very beginning. I took it seriously because he had never been like that his whole life. He would eat a wide variety of food. So for him to be food seeking even the first 12 hours, constantly, every 20 minutes, can I have a snack? Can I have a snack? And you could see right away, it wasn't just, oh, I'm unhappy, I'm in a hospital, can I have a cookie? It was, he would eat anything, fruits, vegetables, meat. He didn't care. If he could get his hands on it, it went in his mouth. And so for that first week, I was kind of trying, what's going on here? This can't be normal, because that's not how he normally was.
So before the surgery, Wyatt was a very, very active kid, very athletic. We would take him park hopping, and we'd go for 4 hours, and we'd do 10 parks in our little town, Airdrie, which is just north of Calgary. And after the 10th park, I'd be like, I'm tired watching you, and I want to go home and have dinner. And he'd be like, well, where's the 11th park? But I've still got energy. So he had the surgery.
And then walk up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were very active. And then immediately after the surgery, we knew there were some issues.
By the time we left the hospital a month later, he had gained 23 pounds.
Can I ask you a question about your tumor that you had?
Yeah.
What do you remember about having a tumor?
That was really hard. Definitely. Sadly.
What was hard about it?
Just mostly all the seasons, and I had hunger. Keep getting hunger. I always felt hungry,
What is it like to always feel hungry?
I don't know him.
Tell me Wyatt's story in a linear fashion.
So when Wyatt was little, he was diagnosed with what they described at the time was one end of the autism spectrum as what used to be called Asperger's, and that was when we had noticed him doing certain things or acting certain ways. And around the same time, he had his first major seizure. And
that was at age 3 or so, right?
About age 3 and a half, yeah. And so we kind of went along with that. He was treated with epilepsy medicine, and as time went on, it was going well. It was controlling his seizures. He wasn't, doing too badly.
If you were to introduce somebody meeting Wyatt for the first time, how would you introduce him?
I say, hi, this is Wyatt, my son, and he's just turned 9. Wyatt has been through a lot of medical things, so it's hard sometimes for Wyatt when we're in a crowd or in a lot of noise, but he pushes through, and he's as calm as he can try to be, and you're always trying to make friends wherever you go.
I want you to imagine that you find a magic genie lamp, and a genie comes out and he says, Wyatt, I am a genie, and I grant you one wish. You can wish for anything in the world. What would you wish for?
For some reason, I think that you lived with me. It was like you lived here for some reason.
That's really sweet. I think it's because we're friends now.
Maybe.
So he was on the epilepsy medicine and everything was going fairly hunky-dory. They were under control and nothing too serious. But then when we discovered we were coming down here, we decided to move forward with his MRI because they wanted to know why is he having seizures, because it doesn't run in our families. He didn't have any injuries or trauma, car crashes, anything that would make your brain just not work quite properly. So we did the MRI and that's when they discovered his tumor by accident just because they happened to see it. It made us see that what we were seeing, it all seems so random, like the rage attacks out of nowhere where, you know, for example, you're sitting here watching a movie, nothing has changed, nothing has happened, but all of a sudden the child is raging for no, like nothing's happened, there's nothing to set them off, they're just angry. And even they don't remember that it happened a lot of the time, they don't remember what they did while it was going on, and they don't, like they feel really bad when they come kind of back to, so to speak, things like that. So all of a sudden, all this stuff that we had been seeing that really seemed quite disconnected and didn't make a lot of sense, all tied to this one tumor, and there was this whole world that we didn't know about of other kids and other people that have been experiencing that.
Wyatt, what is your favorite thing to do with your dad?
I think board games, not really card games, but I think board games. Board games, and it's like, I think board games and card games and that's it.
Will you say the name of his tumor and where it is on the brain?
It's a hypothalamic hamartoma. So as far as I understand, a hamartoma is a kind of lesion or tumor that happens in a few different places on your body. And hypothalamic just means it happens on the hypothalamus. This syndrome is 1 in 200,000, so there's not that many of them out there. And earlier, a lot of the times, because it causes epilepsy, many of the patients didn't necessarily make it to adulthood, right? Because they can be struck with SUDEP, which is sudden death from an epileptic issue, so often at night. And so some of the people didn't discover their hypothalamic hamartoma sometimes till teenagerhood. They were seeing strange things but didn't figure out what was going on, right? So now this group is trying to raise awareness and tying together what you're seeing so that when you get a diagnosis, you can get support.
What's the most important thing you want other people to understand about Wyatt?
I think the most important thing is that these kids, you know, they have these big challenges. Just making it through a day, right, takes so much energy out of them. You know, he's on like 8 medications, right? Some of them, you know, like all medications, they'll have little side effects.
Do you have less energy now after your surgery?
Yeah.
What's it like to have less energy?
Honestly, because I miss clubbing.
On a normal day, what kind of things do you do?
Minecraft and school if it's a weekday.
After his tumor was discovered in his brain, tell me about the options they gave you and how you decided on your action plan.
Gosh, that was a hard one. One of them, they were describing, okay, this is what he has. Usually this tumor, if they don't do anything about it, if you leave it, it does get worse over time. Some people have been able to live with it and it's not too, it depends where it's located, how big it is. But she said, if they're exhibiting the same symptoms that Wyatt is, then generally that gets worse because your brain with seizure activity gets used to seizure activity and it makes more seizure activity. It's just the way your pathways form. So they said if he's already having the seizures, the rage attacks can actually turn into psychological issues because as they grow older, you end up with hormone problems and all these things. If you don't do something about it, it can get a lot worse.
Remember Mr. Bill, neuropsych, yeah. You know, he met with us, he did an IQ test for Wyatt, and he says, you know, there's risk on the other side because of course there's always risk with surgery, and he says a lot of the kids that get this, you know, the operations like this done, brain surgery done, you know, their brain has already been ravaged by the seizures and so forth, so their IQ is around, you know, 90 to 95. With him, he was quite a smart kid. He was 135 IQ, so kind of like, you know, top of a class of 30 kind of thing. And so they said, you know, there is a risk, right, that he'll suffer some IQ loss out of this, right?
They warned us of memory loss, possible vision loss,
that sort
a mix of things, yeah.
They did say, you know, the hunger, they didn't mention until it was, I think it was the day after surgery, they said he may have some hunger. So I was like, well, that's a fact.
What does it feel like when you're really hungry?
Surgery, right? And he's now on a scooter, so he's kind of, there's a lot of things he's had to relearn.
What was the surgery you decided on and How was his brain impacted?
It's a wire that goes in, and then they use laser to heat it up at the end point. So they basically guide a wire by robot into where the tumor is, into where they want to burn it, and then they shoot a laser at the end to create kind of a sphere of burning, as far as I understand, to heat it up and destroy the tumor. Some of the people, their symptoms are not that strong, so they choose to not have surgery, and then they're just living with whatever this tumor is doing to them day to day. So I think for me, that's why I'm the most proud of all the things you do, just because every day you still get up and you still push and you still learn, and you never give up. You know, so much has happened to you that I don't think a lot of adults would handle very well, and you still get up and make each day the best you can.
What in this world makes you the happiest?
Minecraft and being with you.
Being with you makes me happy too.
Oh, thank you.
I've never played Minecraft though. Is it a fun game?
Yeah.
Did the surgery go as it was expected?
Pretty much as they described.
It makes me always feel hungry, even if I just had like a massive dinner or whatever. Even if that,
You'll still be hungry after the massive dinner?
or whatever, massive something. Oh, excuse me.
You're okay. You're doing great in this interview, by the way.
Thank you.
Do you like talking about yourself? What's your favorite thing to do in the world?
Just be with people.
He's waking up at night. He's never fully. He could eat a whole Cracker Barrel meal, for example, and still be saying he's hungry, which is impossible. It's just not possible.
Whereas before, with his autism, before the surgery, right before he had hunger issues with his autism, he would chew food to death. Like it would take him half an hour to eat a snack.
Fight to get him to even finish a meal.
Yeah, just because of the sensory, he'd have to chew, and I guess it's common with autistic kids. They'll chew their food to mush, and after the surgery, he was suddenly so hungry he was like swallowing cookies whole.
Did anything become more difficult after you had your brain surgery?
I don't think so.
Were there things that were like tougher to do?
I think try and control my hunger.
I remember us going for a walk around the hospital, and he was almost trying to steal food from. He felt he was just starving, right? You felt like you were just starving. Almost like when you saw food that other people had left on the table, you said to Mom, you said, why can't we have that? They're leaving it. They've already left the table, so why can't we have it?
Because if you picture being hungry all the time, it encompasses all parts of your brain. Right, if you've ever felt hungry, it's a bit distracting, right? And if that never goes away, it becomes this constant, when's my next food coming? And it just overwhelms everything you're trying to do, and it makes them quite agitated, right? Because they're always looking for food. We've heard stories of some of these kids with this complication stealing food at restaurants and eating from the garbage and eating from the sidewalk.
You said off camera that doctors referred to his hunger issues as medically induced Prader-Willi.
So, sort of, yeah. It's not actual Prader-Willi because that's a genetic syndrome they're born with. But when we finally got to speak to somebody, they sent us to endocrine and to nutritionists and things like that. And they basically said to treat it like a Prader-Willi child, except that it would be surgically induced symptoms, not born with it.
Naturally,
so it's
but
not that he had beforehand, but it's the same.
It's like a neural.
It's a neural pathway of some kind.
Yeah, that's impaired.
So it's now broken, where the Prader-Willi children are born with that issue. There's something wrong with the way it developed. And so it's the same, controlling the food and the nutrition, encouraging movement, and you basically treat it the same way because it's just all of a sudden he's dealing with the same symptoms that they are.
So it's literally the same thing happening in the brain, it's just induced a different way.
As far as we understand, yeah, they said to treat it exactly the same way.
I did notice that you and your husband talk in a very soft and calm demeanor. Does that benefit Wyatt?
Yes. I guess
Sometimes.
with a sensory person, sometimes sudden noises or kind of an aggressive posture can sometimes make it worse if they're already overwhelmed. So most of the time we try and speak as calmly and quietly as we can.
What do you feel inside when you hear loud sounds?
I'm a little bit overwhelmed.
How does Wyatt tend to act if he feels overwhelmed?
If it's sudden, sometimes he'll try and cover his ears. So sometimes, for example, Lincoln gets overexcited and gets really loud, or he gets angry or shouts and things like that.
Hi, Lincoln. Tell me about your brother Wyatt.
He turned 9.
What's your favorite thing to do with your brother?
Think
Lego
Minecraft.
and Lego.
Except for on the Switch. Because it's really hard.
He also loves Lego.
What's the best thing about having a brother?
Being happy and loving the ball.
If you could send one message to the whole entire world, what would you say?
My soul.
You could say anything. Anything at all.
I think just about my not tomorrow, but I think I mean like what I've been through.
You want people to know about your experience?
I think so.
What do you want them to know about it?
I think just all of it. At least the hard parts anyway.
There's a big cliche of you don't know what somebody's been through, and that's absolutely true. I think it's important to think before you say things, or even think before you give somebody a funny look. I know it's hard because it's kind of human nature, but you never know when that person notices what you're doing, and it hurts their heart even if they don't say it. You know what I mean? And if we could change everything about the life that he's been given, we would, but we can't. And so we have to just do the best we can with the cards he's been dealt, and hope that we can keep him as healthy as possible and teach him what he needs to know so that when he's an adult, he keeps himself as healthy as possible.
After somebody finishes your video, what do you want them to think?
I think just to understand what I've been through.